Let fear fade and let faith be a taked. Let me ask you something. What's stopping you? What's holding you back from stepping into the life you were meant to live? Is it the fear of failure, the fear of judgment, the fear that you're not enough? Whatever it is, I want you to hear me loud and clear. Fear is a liar. It's the greatest illusion ever created, a shadow that vanishes the moment you shine light on it. And that light, that's faith. Fear whispers in your ear, what if you fail? But faith roars back, what if you fly? Fear says, you don't have what it takes. Faith says everything you need is already inside you. You have two choices every single day, live in fear or walk in faith. And let me tell you, the people who achieve greatness, the ones who turn dreams into reality, they don't let fear dictate their actions. They move forward in faith, even when the path isn't clear. Listen, faith is not about having all the answers. It's not about knowing how everything is going to work out. Faith is stepping out when everything in you is screaming to stay where it's safe. It's making the decision that you will not let fear paralyze you anymore, because guess what? Fear is a liar. It's the voice in your head that tells you you're not good enough, not smart enough, not strong enough. It's the invisible chain that keeps you tied to a life that feels smaller than the one you were meant to live. And the worst part, most of the time, fear isn't even real. It's just a story you've been telling yourself for years, maybe even decades. But here's the truth. You have the power to rewrite that story. Think back to a time when fear held you back. Maybe it was a dream you had but never chased because the voice inside said, what if you fail? Maybe it was a relationship you never fought for because fear whispered, what if they don't love you back? Maybe it was a business idea, a bold decision, a leap of faith you never took because fear convinced you it wasn't safe. And so you stayed, you settled, you convinced yourself that it was better this way, that maybe you weren't meant for more. But deep down, there was always that small voice, the one that never fully went away, the one that kept asking, what if? Fear loves to disguise itself as logic. It doesn't always sound like terror. Sometimes it sounds reasonable. It's too risky. Now's not the right time. What if things don't go as planned? But make no mistake, fear is not logic. Fear is a cage, and every time you listen to it, you make that cage smaller. You give up a little more freedom, a little more power, until one day you wake up and realize you're living a life that isn't even yours, a life designed by fear. But what if you stopped listening to the lies? What if instead of asking, what if I fail, you asked, what if I succeed beyond my wildest dreams? What if instead of thinking, what if they reject me, you said, what if they welcome me with open arms? What if instead of saying, I don't have what it takes, you declared, I am more than enough? Because the truth is, the story you tell yourself will always shape your reality. And if your story is filled with fear, doubt, and hesitation, then that's exactly what your life will reflect. I remember a man who was terrified of speaking in front of people. The mere thought of standing on a stage made his heart pound, his hands sweat, his voice shake. He told himself a story that he wasn't a good speaker, that people would judge him, that he would mess up. And because he believed that story, he lived in its reality. He turned down opportunities. He stayed in the background. He let fear control him until one day he got tired of being held back, tired of watching other people do what he knew deep down he was capable of. And so he made a decision. He was going to rewrite the story. He forced himself to stand up and speak, even though his voice trembled. He put himself in uncomfortable situations, even when every part of him wanted to run. And something incredible happened. The more he faced his fear, the smaller it became. The thing that once felt like a mountain became a pebble. Because that's the thing about fear. It only has power if you feed it. Your fear is like a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it gets. Every time you listen to fear, every time you let it stop you, you're making it stronger. But the moment you challenge it, the moment you do the thing that scares you, fear starts to lose its grip. There's a reason why the most successful people in the world seem fearless. It's not because they don't feel fear, it's because they refuse to be controlled by it. They understand that fear is just a feeling, and feelings don't have to dictate actions. They feel the fear and do it anyway. And that's the difference between people who live extraordinary lives and people who live in regret. It's not intelligence, it's not talent, it's not luck. It's the willingness to rewrite the story and act in spite of fear. I want you to imagine for a moment what your life would look like if fear had no power over you. If you woke up every morning with absolute certainty that you were capable, that you were worthy, that you were enough, What would you do differently? Who would you become? How would you show up in the world? Because that version of you, the one who is bold, unstoppable, limitless, that version of you is real. It's already inside of you. You just have to give it permission to exist. Right now, you might be sitting on a dream, waiting for the perfect moment. But let me tell you something. There is no perfect moment. There is only now. And the longer you wait, the more you let fear write your story, the more you risk waking up one day and realizing you've run out of time. Fear will always be there whispering, trying to pull you back into safety, into comfort, into the familiar. But comfort is not where greatness lives. Growth, success, fulfillment, those things exist outside of your comfort zone, and the only way to reach them is to make a choice. A choice to stop believing the lies, a choice to take the first step even when you're scared, a choice to rewrite your story starting today. Faith is a choice. It's not something that just happens to you. It's not something you stumble upon when everything in your life is going perfectly. Faith is the decision you make when nothing makes sense, when the road ahead is uncertain, when fear is screaming in your ear telling you to turn back. Faith is the courage to move forward even when you have no guarantee of what's ahead. Too many people wait for proof. They wait for the perfect conditions, for signs, for a guarantee that everything will work out exactly as they want before they take action. But that's not faith. That's comfort. That's control. And control is an illusion, because the truth is, no matter how much you plan, no matter how much you prepare, you will never be able to predict every obstacle, every challenge, every twist and turn that life throws at you. Faith is choosing to step forward anyway. Think about the greatest achievements in history. The people who changed the world didn't do it because they had all the answers. They did it because they believed before anyone else did, before there was evidence, before there was proof. They had faith in a vision that no one else could see, and they acted on it. That's what separates those who create extraordinary lives from those who stay stuck. The people who win, who achieve, who rise, they don't wait. They don't hesitate. They don't let doubt control them. They trust. They leap. They move forward when everything in them is screaming to play it safe. Think about a child learning to walk. When a baby takes those first steps, they have no proof that they won't fall. They don't know for certain that their legs will hold them up, and yet they try anyway. They stumble, they fall, but they get back up. Why? Because they haven't been conditioned to doubt yet. They haven't been told by the world that failure is something to fear. They simply believe, and because they believe, they keep trying until one day they're running. But as we grow older, we start looking for guarantees. We start believing that we need certainty before we act. We let doubt, fear, and hesitation take over. We stop taking risks. We stop dreaming. We stop believing in the impossible because we've been taught to play it safe. But playing it safe is a slow death. It's the death of passion, the death of purpose, the death of everything that makes life extraordinary. Faith is stepping forward when you can't see the whole path. It's trusting that if you take the first step, the next one will reveal itself. It's knowing that even if you fall, even if you stumble, you will rise again. Because here's the truth. Every great success story begins with uncertainty. Every person who has ever done something incredible had moments where they questioned everything. But they didn't stop. They didn't let the unknown keep them from moving. They made the choice to trust. There was a man who had nothing, no money, no resources, no connections, just a dream. And everyone around him told him to be realistic, to settle, to give up on the crazy idea that he could build something out of nothing. But he refused to listen. He chose faith. He worked when no one was watching. He kept going when the results weren't showing. He believed in something bigger than his circumstances, and because he did, he created a life beyond anything he could have imagined. And that's the thing. Faith is not passive. Faith is not just sitting back and hoping things will magically fall into place. Faith is action. It's moving forward with certainty even when everything around you feels uncertain. It's taking the leap when there's no safety net. It's doing the work before you see the reward. Most people don't fail because they never truly try. They never fully commit. They never go all in because they let fear talk them out of it. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect conditions. But perfection is an illusion, and waiting is just another word for fear in disguise. Imagine standing at the edge of a cliff, looking out over the unknown. Behind you is everything safe, everything familiar. In front of you is possibility, opportunity, a life that you can't fully see yet. But you know deep down that staying where you are means settling for less. So you have a choice. You can turn back, stay where it's comfortable, and live with the nagging feeling that you were meant for more, or you can take the leap. You can choose faith over fear. And here's the secret. When you leap, the path rises to meet you. Doors open that you never could have planned for. Opportunities appear that you never could have predicted. The right people, the right resources, the right moments, they show up. Not because you waited for them, but because you moved toward them. The difference between success and failure, between a life of greatness and a life of regret, is not talent, intelligence, or luck. It's the decision to believe, to trust, to step forward without knowing exactly where the road leads, but having faith that it will take you exactly where you're meant to be. And the truth is, you already know what you need to do. That thing that's been calling you, that dream that won't go away, that vision that keeps coming back no matter how much you try to ignore it, that's not an accident. That's your path. And the only thing standing between you and that life you were meant to live is the choice to believe in it. You don't need all the answers. You don't need proof. You just need to take the first step, because once you do, everything changes. Fear is a powerful force. It has the ability to paralyze, to hold people back from their dreams, to whisper in their ears that they aren't ready, that they aren't good enough, that they will fail. Fear feeds on hesitation, on inaction, on the moments when doubt creeps in and convinces you to wait just a little longer before taking that first step. But there is only one thing that fear cannot survive: action. The moment you move, the moment you take even the smallest step forward, fear begins to lose its grip. Fear thrives in the mind. It grows in the spaces where uncertainty lingers. It builds walls, creates excuses, and convinces people that playing it safe is the smart thing to do. But what if the truth was the exact opposite? What if fear wasn't a stop sign, but a signal that you are standing at the edge of something bigger, something meaningful, something that could change your life? What if fear wasn't a warning to turn back, but an invitation to step forward? Because that's exactly what it is. There was a man who spent years dreaming of starting his own business. Every time he thought about it, excitement surged through him. He had ideas, he had passion, he had the vision, but every time he was about to take action, fear crept in. What if I fail? What if I lose everything? What if people laugh at me? So he waited. He convinced himself he needed more time, more resources, more certainty, and years passed. The dream never left him, but he never moved toward it. Then one day he met a mentor who asked him a simple question: what's the worst that could happen if you tried? He thought about it. The worst? Maybe he'd fail, maybe he'd lose some money, maybe he'd have to start over. But then the mentor asked another question: and what's the worst that could happen if you never try? That question hit him like a bolt of lightning. The worst thing wasn't failure, it was regret. It was waking up 10, 20 years from now and realizing he had let fear steal his life. That conversation changed everything. He took his first step. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't easy, he stumbled, he made mistakes, but something incredible happened. The fear that had controlled him for years began to fade. With every step he took, his confidence grew. The thing he had spent so long being afraid of wasn't as terrifying as he had imagined. And that's the secret. Fear only has power when you stand still. Fear is a projection of the worst case scenario. It tells you everything that could go wrong, but it never tells you what could go right. It keeps you focused on failure instead of possibility. But when you take action, you shift the focus. You stop thinking about what could go wrong and start proving to yourself what's possible. And once you see what's possible, there's no going back. Think about riding a bike for the first time. As a child, you probably felt nervous. You saw others riding effortlessly, but when you tried, you wobbled, you fell, you scraped your knees. Maybe you even thought, I'll never get this. But then you got back on and you tried again and again until one day something clicked. You stopped overthinking and suddenly you were riding. The fear that once felt overwhelming was gone, not because the fear magically disappeared, but because you proved to yourself that you could do it. The same principle applies to everything in life. You don't become fearless by thinking about action. You become fearless by taking action. Fear loses its power the moment you step into it. There are people who spend years waiting for the fear to go away before they take action. But fear doesn't leave first. Action comes first, and fear follows. Fear never disappears on its own. It waits for you to move, and when you do, it starts to fade. Think about the greatest moments in your life, the moments you felt alive, unstoppable, proud of yourself. Were those moments filled with hesitation, or were they moments when you took a risk, stepped out of your comfort zone, did something you weren't sure you could do? Fear is always present before those moments. But once you take action, fear transforms into power. The people who achieve great things in life aren't the ones who never feel fear. They are the ones who refuse to let it stop them. They feel the fear and they move anyway. They don't wait for confidence to appear before they take action. They take action and confidence follows. Confidence isn't something you're born with, it's something you build. And the only way to build it is through action. Fear wants you to hesitate, to wait, to overthink, to doubt, but action breaks the cycle. Every time you take a step, you weaken fear's hold. The first step is always the hardest, but once you take it, momentum takes over. And with momentum comes strength, and with strength comes the realization that the only thing that was ever holding you back was the story you told yourself about fear. The difference between those who live their dreams and those who live in regret is not intelligence, not talent, not luck, it's action. It's the willingness to move forward even when fear is screaming in the background. Fear will never disappear completely, but it doesn't have to, because when you take action, you prove to yourself that fear isn't a wall, it's just a shadow, and shadows disappear when you step into the light. Fear is the invisible force that stands between you and the life you were meant to live. It whispers doubts in your ear, paints worst-case scenarios in your mind, and convinces you that staying where you are is safer than stepping into the unknown. But the truth is, everything you've ever wanted, everything you were meant to become, is waiting for you on the other side of that fear. Your destiny isn't somewhere far away out of reach. It's right there, just past the fear you refuse to face. Fear doesn't show up without reason. It appears when you're standing at the edge of something bigger, something that has the potential to change your life. The moment you feel that tightness in your chest, that hesitation, that little voice telling you to turn back, that's when you know you're in front of something important. Fear is not a sign to stop, it's proof that you're about to grow. It's proof that you are standing at the doorway of your next level. There was a woman who dreamed of becoming a speaker, someone who could inspire and change lives. Every time she imagined standing on stage, she felt a fire inside her, a calling she couldn't ignore. But just as quickly, fear would rush in. What if you forget your words? What if people laugh at you? What if you fail? The fear was loud, so she stayed in the background. She convinced herself she wasn't ready. Years passed and the dream never faded, but neither did the fear. Then one day she met a mentor who saw her potential and asked a simple question: what's on the other side of your fear? She didn't know how to answer. The mentor smiled and said, everything you've ever wanted. That conversation shifted something inside her. She realized she had spent years running from the very thing that could set her free. She made a decision she would take the stage. Not when she felt ready, not when the fear disappeared, but now. Her first speech was far from perfect. Her voice shook, her hands trembled, and she stumbled over her words, but she did it, and something incredible happened. The fear that once felt overwhelming began to shrink. The more she faced it, the smaller it became, and with each step forward, she became stronger, bolder, more unstoppable. The thing that once controlled her became the thing that fueled her, and before she knew it, she wasn't just speaking, she was inspiring thousands. That's how it works. Fear tricks you into believing it's permanent, but it's not. It's a temporary barrier, and the only way through it is to face it head on. The moment you step into your fear, you take away its power. The moment you act, you prove to yourself that fear was never real, it was just a story. And once you rewrite that story, everything changes. Fear loves comfort. It wants you to stay where it's familiar, where you don't risk failure, rejection, or pain. But comfort is the enemy of greatness. No one changes the world from their comfort zone. No one reaches their full potential by playing it safe. The people who succeed, who live with passion, who create extraordinary lives are the ones who refuse to let fear make their decisions. They feel the fear, but they move anyway. Imagine standing at the edge of a river. On one side is where you are now, safe, familiar, predictable. On the other side is everything you've ever wanted: success, purpose, fulfillment. Between you and your destiny is the river of fear. You can either stay where you are, convincing yourself that one day you'll cross it when it feels easier, or you can step in now. The water might be cold at first. It might feel uncomfortable, but the moment you take that first step, you realize something: the river isn't as deep as you thought. The current isn't as strong as you imagined. And before you know it, you're standing on the other side, looking back, wondering why you ever let fear hold you back for so long. How many people live their entire lives standing on the wrong side of that river? How many people never take that step because they let fear control them? The answer is too many. People who had dreams but never chased them. People who had talent but never used it. People who were meant for more but settled for less because fear told them they couldn't have it. Fear is a thief. It steals your time, your confidence, your potential, but only if you let it. The moment you decide to stop letting fear dictate your choices, you take your power back. You take control of your destiny. Every breakthrough in life happens on the other side of fear. Every moment that defines you, every achievement that makes you proud, every success story that changes your life, it all comes from the decision to push past fear. So the question is, what's waiting for you on the other side? What dream have you been avoiding? What goal have you been putting off? What vision have you been afraid to step into? Because the moment you face your fear, you open the door to everything you were meant to become. And once you step through that door, there is no limit to what you can achieve. You have a choice to make right now. Stay where you are, trapped by fear, or step forward into the life you were born to live. No one is coming to save you. No one is going to hand you your dreams. No one is going to push you past your fears. That's your job, that's your responsibility, and that's your power. Fear wants you to believe it's permanent, but it's not. It's a test, a challenge, a question that only you can answer. How badly do you want this? Because if you truly want it, you'll stop letting fear control your decisions. You'll stop waiting for the perfect moment. You'll stop making excuses. You'll act, you'll move, you'll rise. Greatness is not reserved for the fearless. Greatness belongs to those who feel the fear and do it anyway. It belongs to those who refuse to let their dreams die in the waiting room of hesitation. It belongs to the ones who take risks, who step into the unknown, who say, I will not let fear steal my destiny. Fear is nothing but a liar. It tells you that you're not ready, that you're not good enough, that you'll fail. But the truth is, you were built for this. You were born for more. The pain of fear is temporary, but the pain of regret will haunt you for a lifetime. So which one will you choose? Remember this, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Fear tells you to sit on the sidelines, but the people who win are the ones who step onto the court, who take the shot, who risk failing because they know that's the only way to succeed. Fear says, what if you fall? But faith whispers back, what if you fly? The most powerful version of you is waiting on the other side of your fear. The life you dream of is already yours. You just have to claim it. You have to step into it, own it, and never look back. This is your moment. Right now, not tomorrow, not next week, not when you feel ready. Now, because the truth is, you will never feel fully ready. There will always be fear. There will always be doubt. But the people who make history, the people who change their lives, are the ones who stop waiting for permission and start taking action. So burn the boats. Cut off the excuses. Leave no option for retreat. Decide right now that you will no longer let fear dictate your life. Decide that you will not let another day go by without taking that step toward your destiny. Because at the end of your life, when you look back, you won't remember the fears. You'll remember whether or not you face them. The question is, when that moment comes, will you be proud of the life you lived, or will you be haunted by the chances you never took? The time is now, the choice is yours. And the future belongs to those who dare to step beyond fear and into their greatness.